Hello, welcome to my. Hello, I finished watching through the first Doctor's era of Doctor Who, and then apparently its ending was the eighth episode of season 4, so I watched that as well. So basically, here are my thoughts on it. The first episode that they lost the rights to, but then are still selling somehow. Like, you can just buy it on DVD or buy it on Google Play Movies. It was the Cave People stuff was boring. I haven't watched it in a year or two. The first appearance of the Daleks, it felt a bit slow, and from what I remember, the characters were in prisons too much, so that weird cave episode that was not interesting. Then there are reconstructions of episodes which are. I don't even know if unwatchable does not begin to describe them. It's like my brain doesn't recognize them as a form of telling a story. So I just skip those and watch reviews of the missing episodes, so I roughly know what happens in them. And then there was like some episode about like, oh, we're on a planet with an acid sea. This might be interesting. Nope, instead, let's go on those dull adventures you've seen in like every TV show ever, where it's welcome to our great society. Oh, it's actually all illusions and fake, and we didn't put much effort into it. It's poor and broken, and that plot. And there was like a dull murder mystery thing, and like uh something in a jungle. I think there was another one. I don't remember it. It was Then there was an episode with the Doctor and his companions were shrunk down, which it didn't feel like an episode of Doctor Who. Then there was the first alien invasion story, which I liked it. Its tone was like, I guess, bleak, but not like ridiculously like trying to be uncomfortable and dark to where I just question what was the thought process in this beyond make the audience uncomfortable. It wasn't that level of bad though. It was good, I'd say. Like the weird part was like, here, do work as a slave. That's not was like kind of dull, but eh. Oh yeah, then there's Susan. I thought Susan was 8 years old. No, I'm not kidding. I thought she was like meant to be 8 years old. I'd say 4, but she didn't look small enough to be 4. Long story short, Susan is imagine like an annoying child character. Not the weird kind that makes you want to go, get this idiot off the screen. More the normal kind where you're like, why is this here? This doesn't do anything. Get it off the screen. It's annoying. Like, I prefer it to be unpleasant over annoying. It's like, oh grandfather, I don't contribute to the plot and just scream loudly. Why was that there? It just felt we're like, I don't know if I'd call them a bad character that they developed, but they still were annoying as they developed because they were written like make them 12 or 11, not 13 or 14 or something. Like they felt like that whoever wrote them didn't understand what teenagers were. I thought, oh, I have some 8-year-olds. I think that's accurate. They're just scared of their grandfather. Let's do that. Yeah, that was not bad. And the whole, here, Susan, go marry some man. I'm like, no. Assuming Susan was 8 till I looked it up to see if they were actually going that far. Thankfully, Susan was like in her 200s or something, and then also like in her teens technically, but mentally a child somehow. I don't know how you live 200 years and stay mentally like 8, somewhere between 8 and 4 for that long. I don't know. Especially with an asshole grandfather like the first Doctor. I don't know how that happens. And there's Vicky's introduction where I'm like, oh no, why are you putting another one in the show? The last one was not useful, and Vicky was thankfully better. The villain in that episode was they belonged in Scooby Doo, but Scooby Doo was not made yet at that time. I wouldn't recommend that episode. Then there was the episode set in Rome. I guess that was the first time I noticed Ian and Barbara actually enjoying the time travel thing. And then they tried to make a new iconic villain called, like, I don't know, it was a bunch of bees and ants that all looked bad. And then, like, some, like, evil plant thing that was named a Spanish word for soul or something, and like it was retconned to being a god from before the universe. It was dull, and the camera had like stuff smeared all over it that no one bothered to clean off. I don't know why. So then after they rubbed Vaseline on the camera, and then someone watched it on a TV and told them, hey, you need to clean the camera. They cleaned the camera, I think. And then I was on to like the first, I guess, like lost episode of the second season, which was I had to buy like a DVD box set containing all the fractured pieces of missing episodes to watch through them, which the first one I watched in this binge was, I don't know, it wasn't very good. Kind of dull, and half of it was audio only, which I skipped for obvious reasons, because if audio with pictures was unwatchable, I don't want to know what audio only would be. Then there was the Space Museum where it's like, the future is you being captured, and they had to avoid being captured. It was interesting. Then there was a comedic chase episode, but it wasn't that funny, and the villains weren't that threatening, and just like it wasn't that good. Then at the end of season 2, it's like it's the first ever episode set in the past with like history being sent off course by like another one of the Doctor's species, and it was kind of dull because it had padding in the middle. And then there was an episode that they had to animate over because it was all lost, so it was in color, and the TARDIS floor was probably blue when it was originally filmed or something. It was really odd to see these characters in color for the first time. Then there was a story that was like, here's a story where no one from the show appears in it. It's like these people trying to send out a message about the Daleks, and it's like, no, it's not that interesting. They all died. It was kind of meh. Then in between that and the opening of that story, there was an episode where they went to like, I don't know, Troy or something, and like made the like fake Trojan horse or something. Then like Katarina, a princess from like Trojan times, joined them, and then got killed in a 12-part Dalek episode. That was not that good. Okay. And then after that, I believe there was a story where like, where basically one of the Doctor's newer companions, a guy from like the 50th century, gets stuck right before a massacre. He's like, I think that guy's the Doctor. Like the Archduke of I forget what. From what I can gather based on some guy's review and general production history of, we're going to run over the production history and plot. Basically, the Doctor was like barely there, and it was some like guy that he thought was a Doctor that was a doppelganger that they never encountered each other somehow. Also, the guy who played the first Doctor wanted to play his evil son. That thankfully never got added. Imagine how different the show would be if he had an evil son. In other words, instead of an evil son or encountering the Archduke of who the hell cares, the first Doctor ended up reuniting with Susan in a weird crossover made in the 80s when they started to get obsessed with going back to taking the show back to what it was in the 60s. For like, and then after that they got obsessed with redoing the 60s, but they couldn't watch any episodes for reference and had to go off memories from when they were young and didn't know what, and then probably didn't know what character development was. And, oh, the Doctor was grumpy in the 60s, let's do that again. From what I remember of, from what I've heard of, like the mid 80s era of Doctor Who, so my memory of that is foggy. Now imagine writing a TV episode based on your foggy memory from 20 years ago of a show, and then redoing stuff from that. Which didn't really help the show. It killed the show, I think. So long story short, then the Daleks are defeated with the time controller and stuff then. And then the Doctor and his companions, annoyed the police, decided to go to the modern times and mess with the police and do slapstick and invade a film set and start messing with everyone in an episode called The Feast of Stephen. That I have no idea. That shouldn't be a thing. Some guy animated over this on his own? Why would you do that? This thing does not deserve to be revived.
Where have you been all this time? We've been waiting for you. As our expert on Arabian customs, we need your help.
Certainly, my help. Oh, I should be delighted. Yes, Saidi, I know.
Oh, very good, Professor.
Doctor.
Oh, Doctor. Now, this is a rich Sheikh's tent.
Oh, yes, and who is this?
She is an Arabian princess.
Nonsense, you put some more clothes on, child. Go along. What's all this?
This is nonsense. I keep the jewels.
What is this? Yeah, that's the thing someone thought. That's right, that. In the middle of a story about the end of the universe. Why is that in the middle of the episode? That's also 5 hours. This was not needed.
You want to be in that scene, the hot scene? Please, come on to the wardrobe. Dr. where are you going?
What's even being said? Yeah, no. Imagine watching that. Like, the plot decides to stop and then do whatever that is. That doesn't contribute or do anything. Why was that even made? And then why did someone animate over the remaining audio? So, after the doctor goes after the Daleks, takes a break and messes around on a random film set for no reason, and then resumes defeating the Daleks, then after that, the doctor gets ends up eventually at some point getting sent into a realm of some weird conceptual realm or something owned by the celestial Chinaman. I mean toy maker. I mean Chinaman. I mean he's just, and where they were so strapped for budget that they pulled random outfits for random things. One of which, and they also stole a character from someone's, Billy Butchers or Batson or Billy something, Billy Buttons from some adult play or something, and then made him one of the antagonists, and it was them playing children's outside activities. Well, the doctor does a logic puzzle, but he's just a floating hand because he's invisible and intangible and can't speak. Because someone thought that would be entertaining. The weirdest things I find, because I now question, then why was that thing so much of a bad idea? Because then this exists, and this was thought to be a good idea. So basically the doctor was intended to regenerate in this episode, but that was scrapped. So basically then, after they publicly apologized for copyright infringement, the doctor gets a toothache and then goes to the Old West, but it's more like an Old Western, and then at some point Stephen is forced to sing about a woman with rings on their fingers and bells on their toes, or something in the Old West, and it's this is a Western. Are we sure they haven't exited the toy maker's domain yet? Or are we sure they have? There was this constant interlude of some woman singing about blood on the sawdust, and I'm why? It's just odd. It was an Old Western. I don't much care for Old Westerns. I assumed that the doctor's death was being foreshadowed because it was 5 stories away. So basically, eventually, in an episode that was fully lost, where I watched a review of it to see what the plot was, it was basically the doctor's character development hitting its endpoint that happened slightly and slowly over 3 seasons. And then in the next episode, he has to stop a supercomputer that's aware of what a TARDIS is, and it's not touched on more. It's aware of Gallifrey technology somehow. This is never brought up again as far as I know. Then there was the finale, where the actor who played the doctor started to get really, really, really drunk because he realized he's going to be leaving the show soon. And he had such a passion for it. He also liked to annoy people and stuff in his way. And be like racist and stuff as well, so. I just realized. Oh yeah, also I think one of the fully missing episodes caused the actor to like not be able to go to a funeral. I don't know why he didn't just say, just go to the funeral. Like, just go to the funeral. They're not going to stop you from going to a funeral. Like, physically at least. Can't physically stop you from that. Go to your funeral, dude. So basically, because the guy couldn't go to a freaking funeral of a family member, couldn't go to the funeral of the only person in his family that actually liked him, because he had to film an episode of Doctor Who, basically, between that and the whole impending regeneration, the guy started to get really drunk and, I guess, worse? In which that all culminated, in which the Doctor's character development and the actors fall as a human, and by fall I mean fall further. It was already pretty low as is, from what I can gather. This all culminated in part 3, where the actor fell over because they could barely stand, and then these I don't know, selfish people decided to continue filming and added it to the plot in real time. I think. Let me repeat this to you. They continued filming. And kept going, somehow. Imagine you fall over while filming a show and you're the main lead. And they're like, hey, alright, Doctor, is that the response to you falling over? I literally want to fall over again after hearing that. In that situation. So after that happens, no one ever junks that episode, somehow. And they have to, like, hastily rewrite some stuff and alter stuff. In which, basically, the Cybermen, on their introduction, are trying to destroy Earth and use its energy resources to fix their planet. And where, basically, the first Doctor dies due to the actor falling over due to alcohol poisoning. Well, the actor survived, at least. And the first Doctor enters, heroically, I think, and then the Cybermen are defeated by radiation? With the first Doctor stumbling back to the TARDIS? Well, the actor can barely freaking remain conscious and move. Or something. In which, basically, the first Doctor encounters the 12th Doctor, ending in a weird, like, strange combat hybrid of the two, where they combine the racism of William Hartnell with the characterization of the first Doctor. To what I best describe as like a weird experience. So basically, after Twice Upon a Time happens, and then like the first Doctor sees his future, regenerates, and then like the second Doctor's first story happens, and it's like the writers didn't really know what to do. And the episode is now lost, and it was animated over, and everyone looks overly detailed, and their arms are too thick, and way too under detailed, to where they look blocky and wrong. It was a good episode, aside from that. Then there was like a dull episode about fish people with some like over the top campy acting. But it was not it was like on the lower end where like the actor didn't seem like they were enjoying it that much. Like they were playing it up just because it was like very dull. I skipped the third one. It's so boring. Then there was the Cyberman's second appearance, and it just felt like the 10th Planet, but was like themes that weren't as well done, and at least less drunken, stumbling actors on the verge of mental and physical collapse. Then there was like an episode set in an airport about like kidnapping young people to repopulate a planet or something. Then there was the final end of the Daleks, because Terry Nation wanted to make a spin-off and sell it to America, and it was alright. Also, why? Okay, now on to the 14th Doctor's era. The first episode was like some comedy sketch that's not canon. Second episode was okay. And like, it's also obsessed with like, let's resume past plot lines from 2 decades back. Again. Let me repeat this to you. It's the thing that led to the original show dying, where they desperately tried to go back to the 2 decades ago, and it all fell apart. That happened here. Oh, look, we have Tennant and Catherine Tate and all them back. But, like, within the current show's, like, general style, to where it's, like, yeah, it feels like it's these, like, weird, vapid attempts at, like, political messaging involving, like, gender or something, where they, like, did it just because instead of out of a passion, where it's, like, is disliking and insulting men helping a cause? I think, I don't know, put it in there. I don't know what that did. Didn't do anything. All it did was come off as, like, strange, and make me question, like, the mental state insanity of the people writing parts of the show. Like, why are you putting this here? How is this, like, spreading a positive message about gender identity, or what? I don't know. It's, like, weird, like, vapid Twitter-level politics that just don't work because there's no actual thought or nuance or anything in them beyond nothing. The next episode was well done. I liked it. It involved weird, nothing entities duplicating the Doctor and Donna, and like... And there was the third episode where they brought back the guy that thought writing a disembodied hand moving wood while a guy watches it. They brought back the guy that watched the hand move the wood 10,000 times. And it was significantly less boring. Also, I think the Doctor retired, then eventually regenerated after that, but then the regeneration into the 15th Doctor got moved up to the middle of his lifespan for some weird reason. It's confusing. Also, there was a weird... Also, the villain had a weird rant about, like, throwing balls at skulls or something and ending humanity like that. How skulls are balls. It was weird.